This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 116.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 116, and in today's episode, we will be talking about 6 different ways of finding content ideas for your blog, for your website, for your online business. Before we jump into that, I'd like to invite you to head over to extrapodcast.com/116 and leave a comment there if you have any kind of questions about online marketing, affiliate marketing, marketing strategies, anything of that sort. And chances are I'll get to your question and I'll answer it on this very podcast. So I would really appreciate those questions if you have them, especially if you have really good ones. So head over to that page and leave a comment with your question. Now, let's move on to the actual show. If you've been listening to my podcast and reading my blog, you already know that content is very, very important when it comes to online marketing, when it comes to running and growing your own online business. And I've talked about it quite a lot recently, actually. In the episode number 113, I talked about how to create high quality content. And there have been other episodes where I talked about content extensively. And by now you realize that you need to create high quality content. Your content has to be good. Your articles have to be good. Your videos have to be entertaining or very helpful at the very least. And that's fine. We all know that. It takes hard work to create high quality content. But there's another issue. What kind of content should we create? What should we talk about? And that's something that if you haven't come across, you will eventually, because if you spend enough time in your niche, if you write enough articles in your specific industry, eventually you'll run out of ideas. You'll find it really, really hard finding ideas for good content because it would feel like you already wrote about every single subject there is in your specific niche. And that's something that I struggle with from time to time. You know, sometimes great ideas just come to me, but sometimes I have to do a lot of research to figure out what would be a good subject for a podcast or for an article that I'm writing or even for a video for my YouTube channel. So one of the first strategies that I would like to talk about is Google Alerts. That's a free service and you could find it at google.com/alerts. And it's pretty simple. Basically, you type in your keyword phrase or a few keyword phrases and save it, and Google will send you notifications whenever there is new content being published online that includes your specific keyword phrase. Now, you could also use it to track your brand. So if you have a blog or if you have any kind of a brand, any kind of presence online, you could type in that name of your business in there as well. And if anyone talks about your business, you will get a notification from Google as well. So that's a really cool service. I've been using it for quite a few different niches that I'm in. And, you know, it's been helpful. Sometimes I get really, really good content ideas. Besides that, I also get a lot of news on that very subject. So if you're anything like me, you must be interested in your niche. So it's always good to get the news and to get new stuff related to your niche, related to your industry. This will help you keep updated as well as give you ideas for your future content. Let's move on to number 2. This is one of my favorites. It's a website called reddit.com. If you haven't heard of it, you must be living under a rock because this website is huge. They call themselves the front page of the internet and everything is on Reddit. So Reddit, once again, if you haven't heard of it or if you don't know much about it, it's basically a huge forum-like thing online. It has over 250 million active monthly users. It has over 8 billion monthly page views. And there are over 800,000, so almost 1 million subreddits. A subreddit is like a branch. So if it was a forum, it would be like a category on that forum. So subreddit has 800,000 plus different branches, different subreddits. And many of them are very niche specific. And some of them are really, really, really deep, really small niches. And a lot of them are quite a bit bigger. So that's something that I use a lot in all kinds of different niches, and I find lots of great content ideas in there. So if you go on Reddit and you search for a keyword phrase that your niche is related to, or just type in your very specific niche. Let's say you're selling electronics, you could find a subreddit that's dedicated to computers or to TVs or to pretty much any other part of electronic world. And you could sort the posts in there by popularity. So for instance, you could sort them by the most popular posts of this year, and this will help you realize what has been very, very popular this year, or what is popular this year, what people are talking about. If you see that someone asked a question about a very specific product or a category of a product, and there have been thousands of comments talking about it, thousands of people contributing to this conversation, it means that there is a big demand, and maybe that's a kind of article that you should write and post on your blog. That alone should be a great content idea. Now, if you go look through the actual post and you look through the comments, this will give you more ideas on how to structure your article, what kind of things people want to find out, what kind of problems people have in this niche, and what kind of questions they have about this very specific niche or this very specific product. Now, it's not the only way. You could also look not only at the top posts, but you could scan through like hundreds of posts and try to figure out if there are questions that keep repeating. Because maybe there is a question that a lot of people are asking all the time, and that would be a great content idea. Answering that very question in your blog post or in a video format would be a really, really good idea, because obviously a lot of people are asking about it. A lot of people have interest in that very subject. And that's how you get your content idea from Reddit. Another way of looking for content ideas within Reddit is that some subreddits, especially really big ones, they have a kind of FAQ section usually pinned at the very top of the page, which means that the most popular questions in this niche on this very subject are already answered within that FAQ post. They don't want hundreds of people asking the very same question every single day, so they make this sticky post where they answer these questions, and usually they're more basic questions or very, very common questions, but that's another place where you could find more content ideas for your blog. Idea number 3 is Quora. Quora, spelled Quora, is a question and answer kind of website. It's very similar to what Yahoo Answers used to be, but it seems to be much more popular than Yahoo Answers at this point, and it's very, very active. So you could go in there and ask questions and people will answer them, or you could go in there and answer other people's questions. Spoiler, you could actually integrate your own links whenever you're answering questions, but you have to be careful about it. You have to provide very valuable content, first of all, and not just spam with your links. But that's also another way of getting a little bit of traffic to your websites. Now, that's not what this podcast is about today. We're talking about content ideas. So when you set up your Quora account, you will be able to choose the subject that you're interested in. So let's say, once again, if you're in the electronics department, if that's your industry, you could select a whole bunch of different categories related to electronics. And when people ask questions, you'll be able to get notifications from Quora as well that people are asking about that, or people are asking this very specific question in your niche, in your industry. And then you could go in there and answer these questions if you want to, but at the very least, you're getting these questions. So you know what people are struggling with, and you know what kind of content people are looking for. Now, just like you do with Reddit, you could look through Quora, you could scroll through a whole bunch of different questions, and certainly you'll figure out that some of the questions are asked many times over, and those are popular questions. So you could maybe write a very good blog post on that very keyword phrase or that subject, and if you rank it well enough in Google, you'll get a lot of traffic, because obviously a lot of people are asking that question and they're looking for an answer. Also, within that website, you could see which posts or which questions are very, very popular, which questions have a lot of answers. This way, you could also read through them and get even more content ideas just by reading the answers and trying to figure out what else you should mention in that blog post, in that content that you're about to write based on that question. So yeah, Quora.com, another great place to find content ideas. Strategy number 4 is using Facebook groups. Now, there are many ways you could do with Facebook groups, especially not your own groups, but other people's groups. And if you're more interested about how to market through those groups, you could check out episode number 112 of this very podcast. And I covered the Facebook groups as a way of marketing your online business or any kind of business, really. But once again, it's not what this episode is about. We're talking about content ideas. Facebook groups, some of them are really, really huge. They have hundreds of thousands of members. And if you haven't joined any Facebook groups in your niche, in your industry, you're missing out on a lot. Not just content ideas, but communication with people, with potential customers in your niche. You might be able to get not just ideas, but new customers, new partnerships, and so much more. Right now, we'll be talking about getting content ideas from Facebook groups, and it's once again the same as with Reddit, with Quora. Just go to those groups. If you haven't joined any, look for your niche on Facebook, search it on Facebook and join those groups and look through the questions. You'll realize that a lot of questions are being asked over and over again, the same questions. Some of the groups, they also have some kind of an FAQ or some kind of a document they're sharing with new members who are joining, and they're telling them, look, before you start posting your questions, check out these questions and answers that were posted for you, because once again, they don't want hundreds of people posting the same question every single day. And you could download that list or open it up if it's online and look through the questions. Those questions are being asked a lot, and those are very, very popular, and many of them will serve as content ideas for your own content. If people are asking, that means there is an answer that needs to be given to them. And once again, if you're good enough at writing that content, if you could create high quality content and rank it well, then you'll get loads of traffic. As you'll see, people are looking for this kind of content and they need answers to their questions. You could also participate in those Facebook groups, and it'll make it easier for you to understand what your customers want and what kind of content they're looking for. And whenever somebody asks you something, or whenever somebody posts a question on this group and you have written a perfect piece of article on that very subject, you could simply link to it and tell them, look, here is a short answer, but if you want a really detailed answer on your question, check out my blog post. Here is a link to it. Let me know what you think. People will appreciate that. So it's not only a great way of finding content ideas, it's also a great way of marketing your content and getting more readers to your blog and hopefully creating more fans of your brand. Strategy number 5 is using your own competitors. So if you have an online business, there are other people that have websites on the same subject or in the same industry as you are in. So what you could do and what you should do is follow them closely. You know how they say, keep your enemy closer. And that's what you should be doing. Go to their blog, see what they're talking about, try to figure out what kind of content that they put out gets the most interest from their followers, what kind of content get the most comments, the most shares, and so on. Once again, you could also use Facebook for that, not only their website. Go on their Facebook page, like it actually, and see what they share. And out of these shares, what kind of content gets the most likes, gets the most shares, gets the most reactions, gets the most comments, and create that kind of content, but do it better than they did. That's, the whole point of creating high quality content. Do it better than the other guy. But that will give you ideas, once again, of finding new content for your own blog, for your own website. If you're serious about your business, you should already start looking who your competitors are, if you haven't done that already. Now, sometimes it could be a little bit harder to find your competition, and you could use tools like SEMrush, which isn't really cheap, but it's a great tool of finding your competition and actually kind of spying on them and looking at their rankings, what kind of content they're pushing out, how well they rank for that content, what kind of keywords they're ranking for, and maybe going after those keywords, or at least using them as content ideas for your own business, for your own blog. The last one, strategy number 6, is using forums. Now, those things are getting pretty outdated, and in many industries, forums have died, partially because of sites like reddit.com, because that's where the public has shifted. However, in many smaller niches, they still have these small forums of very, very passionate people who are talking about this niche, who are talking about the industry. And, most of them are not marketers. Unless you go into online marketing or advertising kind of forum, if you go any hobby kind of forum, people are not marketers. They don't even know that marketing exists in a way. Of course they know marketing exists, but they don't think about it. It's not what they're there for. They're there for their hobby, for their passion, which is not marketing. And if you join these forums, and once again, you should, if you really like your niche, if you're passionate about it, and do the same thing as you did through all the other websites that I mentioned today. Look through different threads and see which questions are asked most of the time, which questions are being asked repeatedly, and which questions have generated the most comments and answers, because once again, those are the popular ones, and those should give you ideas to create more content. Now, if you go for questions that aren't as popular, it could also be a great idea, because a lot of your competitors, they will do something similar. They will look for the most popular questions and write blog posts about them, but they will be too lazy to work a little bit harder and to go a little bit deeper and to answer questions that are asked less often. Since not many people will be competing for these questions that aren't very popular, it will be much easier for you to rank on Google for these keyword phrases and for these questions if you put in the effort and create content on that subject. I hope you learned something new in this episode. Once again, head over to extrapodcast.com/116 and submit a question if you have a question about today's episode, or if you have any kind of questions about online marketing, digital marketing, affiliate marketing, and everything in between in this industry. And I'll try to answer your question in this very podcast. Also, head over to extrapodcast.com/iTunes in order to subscribe to the show so you will be notified when new episodes are coming out. Also, leave a rating and a review within iTunes, which will help the show tremendously. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next Monday.